We'll have to hopefully work on a systematic way of increased accountability and oversight. Because what has happened, and I know most of you are aware, but as of as of this week, maybe last week, we are spending or losing, I should say, about $250 million. So in July it was about $192 million, and then on our audit that we had shared, not the audit but the report, last report it was up to $232 million. Dollars lost due to FTE minus 30,000 students losing from the public going to the charter school. And we always are mindful that there are excellent charter schools. And this is not a board workshop to bash the charter school industry. But rather, it is a workshop to point out the fiscal liabilities to a district right now that is incurring a tremendous amount of cost, and the same time of losing 30,000 or more students, we haven't yet right-sized the amount of staff, teachers, maintenance, transportation, security. All those are factors that if you lose students, they also should be, for lack of better words, reduced. So that hasn't been done yet fully. And so right now we're sitting on a situation where I know we need to be more competitive as a public school district. And at the same time, we can't afford to continually lose this much money. So, and I say this with full respect to every board member on this, I'm going to call it a panel, and Member Snively is also familiar with me going through charter school dilemmas for the last 4 years. So appreciate your patience. That's the second. The third reason is, I think, for all of us, the idea of Tallahassee, how do they influence charter schools, and where are we going in the future with Senate Bill 48? You know, what's going on in the future? So Ralph Arza will be here to speak, and Mr. Arza, just so you know, you have 15 minutes. I have everything timed. And then we're going to go to board comments and concerns, and hopefully the outcome will be a more systematic process that we can live with. If we can't do it this meeting, which probably we won't, we can go ahead and plan on another meeting with Mr. Porter, and hopefully come up with a more rigorous application, processes that is more fitting to the board and the board's needs. So at this time, Dr. Cinzia Delage will present the board members her PowerPoint, and oh, I'm sorry, Superintendent Davis, if you would like to go ahead and I didn't forget you, but
it's okay, no worries.
Good morning.
Good morning. Through the chair, thank you, everyone. Today, overall, this team has worked diligently to make certain that the board and the community has accurate information about our interactions as a sponsor with charter schools within Hillsborough County. Overall, from the objective perspective, we'll talk about statutory requirements related to charter school implementation, not only within Hillsborough County but throughout the state. We'll go into an overview of charter schools and which way they are operating, way we approve any authorities or entities within our school district. We'll talk about how the Schools of Hope have played an instrumental part within the state of Florida, and how that will journey to Hillsborough County in the 21-22 school year. And then talk about the applicational process within Hillsborough County. What are we based on, and any renewal processes as they come up to for renewals. Along with looking at overall enrollment trends, state accountability trends, and how we continue to create and sensationalize the district managed schools that we are in charge of every single day, that we own the budget, the curriculum, the hiring, the implementation, the pathways, the programs in any of our initiatives today. So I'm going to hand off to Mr. Ayers, who Chief of Innovation, to introduce his team, and then we'll transition to Ms. Cinzia.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. And as Ms. Gray mentioned, the first part of this presentation will be about 20 minutes, and I want to first introduce our charter team here. Chinsia DeLang, who is our supervisor over charter schools, Amy Fortis, sitting next to her, district resource teacher, and finally Carolyn Johnston, accountant in the charter school office. So this presentation with these slides about 20 minutes, and then we'll transition to the next phase of the workshop. Chinsia?
Sorry, I forgot one introduction. Dr. Graham is here from Department of Education. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. And you look great, by the way. So, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Right. Good morning. Everybody hear me? All right. Good morning, Madam Chair, board members, and Superintendent Davis. Thank you for this opportunity to go over the authorizing and oversight practices that the district currently implements through our charter office. We begin with the definition of charter schools, and I'm using the DOEs, which is charter schools are public schools that operate with a performance contract, hence the word charter, that frees them, that allows them to operate without certain regulations that traditional schools must adhere to. I think it is important to emphasize that charter schools are open to all students residing within the district. However, some charter schools actually target specific populations, such as students with disabilities and or students at risk of dropping out. And we do have charter schools like that, such as Pepin Academies, Focus, FACE, Seminole Heights, and West University. The charter schools are funded just like traditional schools through the Florida Education Finance Program, or FEFP. They also are entitled to a proportionate share of categorical program funds, and they do have access to federal funds and grant funds. Oops, sorry. Let's go back in time. Charter schools started in Minnesota in 1991 as a small movement, and over the years it has evolved into a very large industry with more than 7,400 schools in the U.S. as of in 2020. But the state of Florida approved the very first piece of legislation in 1996, and Miami-Dade opened that same year the very first Florida charter school. Hillsborough County opened its first charter schools in 1997. Since 1996, legislation regulating the operation of charter schools has evolved into what is today's Florida statutes, as you see listed in these slides. And the 1002.33 is a very comprehensive one. The next slide is, again, pieces of legislation that set standards for high-performing schools. And charter schools do have state requirements that they must follow. And quickly, they have to be non-sectarian. They have to be accountable for its performance. They cannot charge tuition or fees. They must comply with all local, state, and federal requirements. They cannot discriminate, and they must be subject to an annual financial audit that usually occurs in July, and maintain financial records and an operating budget that we oversee in our charter office. They must also participate in all state assessments. There are exemptions, though, in the state law, and any Florida statute between 1000 and 1013, the charter schools are exempt from, except for those specific statutes that pertain to the listed requirements on this slide. And I would like to point out that the facilities one, charter schools, as opposed to a traditional school, must follow the Florida Building Code, whereas a traditional school must adhere to the state requirements for educational facility, or SREF. The following 3 slides pertain to state mandates that placed on districts regarding charter schools, and we've categorized them into 3 categories. The first one being educational services. So the district must provide a child find and ESE eligibility services to charter schools. We must also provide professional development that has to do with IEP development, give them access to any kind of platform accessing IEPs, so EdConnect and EFAD in our case. We must provide them with ESE training, appoint a staffing specialist, and any other agreements put in our charter agreement. District must also provide services for anything related to state testing. Under operational services, anything that has to do with contract management services, and that is basically the all-encompassing authorizing processes that the charter office is responsible for at this time. The use of our systems and data to report FTE. We must also provide processing of teacher certification services. So just like we provide the service to district teachers, we have our certification office has a dedicated person to ensure that teachers are properly certified and eligible to teach. Our information services are open. Any student information system charter schools have access to, such as the mainframe, EdConnect, IPT, Lawson, and First Class. Eventually, when we transfer to the new systems, they must also have access to those. Lastly, we have the National School Lunch Program services available to eligible schools. Lastly, the last category is business services. So some of the business services I'd like to point out are the monitoring of federal and state grants, where we are the LEA, the local education agency, and we do act as a pass-through for all state funding, grant funding, and Title I funding. Because we are mandated to provide these services by law, the law also allows us, the district sponsors, to charge an administrative fee. So we do receive a 5% fee from most of our charter schools, except for the 12 schools that are deemed high performing. We retain a 2% administration fee. So what does our portfolio look like presently in Hillsborough County? We have 52 charter schools operating right now, and every single one are governed by a not-for-profit board. So a governing board that has decision power at the school level. However, 26 of these 52 schools have an agreement with a for-profit management company that in the business of charter schools we call ESPs, or Educational Service Provider. These providers do exactly that. They provide services to the governing board, such as writing applications, helping with the contract renewals, providing them with curriculum, staff recruitment, HR services, and financial services. I'd like to draw your attention now to the annual report presented to the board on October 20th as an informational item. I know 3 of you were not part of the last board, so for this reason we have provided you a link to the actual annual report that our office creates every single year and brings to the board as an informational item in October. But this report has valuable information to include a snapshot for every single charter school in our portfolio that highlights statistical demographics and performance on financial data. This is a chart basically that breaks down the number of students enrolled in charter schools by school district area. And as you can see, currently we've got 30,644 students actually enrolled. So this is not projections. This is based on numbers from our student information system. This is just a nice visual for you to see where the concentration of charter schools are in the county. Now, when we do have 7 schools that have been approved by our board, but have not yet opened. So this is a list of them with the years where they must open or have deferred to open. For example, if you look at Bridge Prep Academy of Advanced Studies of Hillsborough, it was approved in 2018, and because the law allows them to defer for 3 years, it must open in 2022. So a shift, here we shift to the Schools of Hope because they fall under a completely different law that passed in 2017. So there is no historical data in the state of Florida because these schools are new to the educational landscape of the state of Florida. A School of Hope is designated by the DOE. It's a designation given to them. And right now we've got 5 operators in the state of Florida, and they are Matter Academy, Democracy Prep, IDEA Public Schools, KIPP New Jersey, and Somerset. And as you well know, the IDEA Public School has chosen to open in Hillsborough County. Let's take a closer look at the authorizing process that the district is responsible for, and it includes the application review, contract negotiations, ensuring new schools are ready to operate on day one, monitoring of academic, operational, and finances of the charter schools, a contract renewal, and closure if necessary.
A little closer at the application review process. In Hillsborough County, we receive applications every year on February 1st. The process that we follow in the district is to first allow an opportunity for applicants to attend an applicant orientation each October. This is not a statutorily required opportunity, but it is considered a best practice around the country and across the state to provide specific information about the county that they're applying.
Oh, excuse me, Amy, time out. I mean, maybe your microphone is not on? Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
The next thing that we ask for from applicants is that they give us a notice of intent to apply. And this is for planning purposes. Again, that is not required in the statute, but it is something that helps us plan our review process and put our team together to ensure we have a thorough and comprehensive and high-level review process every application cycle. The deadline that the state puts forward in statute is February 1st every year. And when an applicant applies on February 1st of a current cycle, they're looking to open a charter school 18 months later. For example, this year, the applicants that applied February 1st, 2021 are seeking to open a charter school in 2022-23 school year. So we're looking at an 18-month window. Once we receive the applications, our review team goes under training. That way we have ensured that everyone on the team is aware of not only who they're reviewing, but what our process is to ensure a thorough and comprehensive review of the application. We then provide an opportunity to the applicant to present to the review team. This is not required by statute. It is something that we've done here in Hillsborough County for many years, and it's really to put the human contact to the review process and ensure that we're creating relationships so that we can mitigate the risk to our students and ensure the best quality group along with the best quality application comes before the board for approval potentially. After that takes place, our review team reviews applications individually, and then we come together as a team to debate and discuss the merits of the application. Following that, an applicant capacity interview is held. This is not a statutory requirement either. However, it is a best practice nationally and across the state to really, again, mitigate the risk of the group that's coming before us. Not only are we looking at the application as a cohesive document, but we are meeting the applicant. We're asking him the hard questions face to face in that capacity interview to determine if they truly are ready to produce the document they've put in writing. Following that, we make provide our review findings to the superintendent so that he may make his recommendation to you at the school board meeting. Here is a example, a composition for our current review cycle. As you can see, we have staff from a variety of departments across the district. We have several curriculum and instruction specialists from the area of STEM, virtual, SEL, depending on where we're kind of seeing a concentration of the curriculum focus of the school. We've been very blessed to secure folks from those departments who are able to help us ensure the best quality program is presented in the application. We also invite external reviewers who are charter school operators onto the team because we find that they are great critics of their colleagues coming to a charter school in Hillsborough County. The application process, as well as the contracts that we use, are all guided by Florida statute. The law creates the requirement for these to be developed, and the Department of Education develops these model documents that all applicants are required to use and all sponsors are required to implement in our evaluation and in moving forward in our contracting processes. If an application is recommended for approval to the school board, and it goes forward and is approved, contract negotiations then guide the next step. An application does not mean the school is opening. They must have a contract in order to open, which comes before you as the board and is voted on for them to go to the next step of operation. If an application is denied, the school district must notify the DOE as well as the applicant within 10 days, provide information as to why it is denied, and then we wait, excuse me, for the applicant to either accept the denial that the district has handed out, or they also have the opportunity to appeal to the appeals commission held by the Department of Education. Now, it would be the district's responsibility to appeal also with the appeals commission and ensure the denial is upheld. The appeals commission can overturn the district's denial, but the district then also has the opportunity to appeal to the state board of education. Likewise, if the denial is upheld by the appeals commission, the charter applicant may appeal to the state board of education and then on to an ALJ.
The chart before you now offers a 10-year historical glance of applications received, approved, denied, and withdrawn in Hillsborough County. The last row shows out of those withdrawn how many reapplied the following year. So, for example, in 2020, 3 applications were withdrawn and 2 have reapplied as of February 1st. This is a chart that we took directly from the 2019 DOE's authorizing report, and it's a wonderful report that the DOE puts out every year. Again, we've provided you a link to it because it has a wealth of information. We have extracted pertinent information regarding the largest counties as a comparison to our county when it comes to applications approved, withdrawn, and denied. So as Amy said, February 1st started this year's application cycle, and we received 9 applications. If some of them might be familiar names to you, so if approved, you will see that Dr. Patel Elementary School will be, if approved, will be on the same site. Excelsior Prep will be on the same site as the existing K-5, if approved. And Victory Charter School will be on the same site, if approved.
Shifting gears to the contract renewal process, a contract renewal is a requirement that for every charter school to go through at the end of their contract term. The law allows us to hold a review process in the district in order to ensure the school is viable to move on to that next contract phase. And this is run in Hillsborough County through a notice of intent that the school intends to continue operation and renew their contract. We then provide information to the schools to ensure they're aware of what our expectations are to proceed through the renewal review. We train our team members, again, that group of operators, district staff who come from a variety of disciplines across the district, assist us in this process. We also ask the school to provide an application update, and this is because it's been potentially many years since they applied, and we want to know what has changed in their program and ensure that they're continuing to provide successful opportunities for their students. We then go through a 3-day review process of the academic, organizational, and financial performance of the school through document review, observations, interviews, and we also look at the historical performance of the school and how they've interacted with their office and any compliance or oversight concerns we've had along the way. Following this, we debrief, of course, with the school administrator so they are aware of our findings, and then we provide the finding information to the superintendent so that contract negotiations can potentially ensue and the contract would come to the board for approval. Once a contract is approved, it comes before the board for approval, and then they are able to operate continually in that new contract term that has been provided through the renewed contract. If for any reason that is provided here, there is a non-renewal or termination recommendation, the district must make student achievement the utmost priority in that non-renewal determination. Their compliance to the accountability system is looked at very closely. If they are meeting fiscal management responsibilities, if there are any material violations in the law or other good cause concerns related to student health and safety, these are also reasons for non-renewal or termination of the contract. And I will let you know that once a contract is terminated, our office then proceeds with school closure procedures.
On this particular slide, I will go over just a few things or data that we compared. If not. Okay. On this particular slide, we will go over data comparison with Hillsborough County and the other 5 large districts within the state of Florida. We are looking at 2 prior years and the current year 2021 data. We have the number of traditional schools, that would be K through 12 for each district, the number of charter schools within each district, and the number of FTE for the charter schools. The amount of revenue is the amount of revenue generated for the charter schools. This does not deduct the admin fee that is paid or given or taken out for the districts. This is just basically the funding that is generated by FTE of the charter schools.
So as you see, there are 3 layers of accountability that starts with the parents, and then the district and the state allows for a tier of accountability. But it begins with the initial choice of the parents, and the parents also have a choice to change and go to whatever school of choice they want.
And this slide just talks about, thank you, ma'am, appreciate it, thank you, each of you. This slide talks about and shows the overall last 10 years of enrollment and what the impact has been to Hillsborough County Public Schools as choice becomes a priority within our communities. And as you can see, that we've had a major influx of students creating and selecting a different pathway. This tells us a lot about ourselves, about how we have to self-reflect, how we have to continue to make sure that we market, and while our job as a sponsor is to provide statutory supports to charter schools, our role as well is to be able to tell our story, to be able to provide robust, thriving programs and initiatives where children, feel that neighborhood schools or choice schools or a magnet school that are district managed by Hillsborough County School District are ones that they elect and select to be able to engage with every single day. I think the biggest thing is that we have to do a better job marketing. We have to do a better job telling and highlighting our successes as an organization, and that we have to have healthy and engage in healthy competition. And I say healthy because overall, anyone that transitions to education, my hat is tipped to each of them, and because this is a very difficult job to take on and do. Whether it's civic leaders, teachers, support staff, district staff, you name it, or boards. But overall, we'll go to the next slide. Ms. Chincy, you got that? Okay.
If you mind, the trend line that you see there, the dotted line across the years, represents a 3-year trend line, and you can see that it was fairly smooth from 12-13. Something happened in 16-17 to 17-18 where that trend sort of shifted up, where more families were choosing charter, whatever that represents, and I don't know the history as well, so I can't speak to
Okay.
the overlaying this with the number of charter schools would probably reveal some element there, but you would expect trends to be fairly consistent, and so something happens significantly at that point to create that shift upwards.
All right, go to the next one.
This is meant to be a visual analytic. You do not have to read the names of the schools. Mostly pay attention to the colors to the right, in that blues represent charter schools that have received an A. In the 2019 year is sort of our anchor point. We only go back to 2015 because that is the year in which the state ran the baseline for the new FSA. So we are just looking at the 5 years where testing has occurred since that time. Green is schools that earned a B. C's the light sort of orange, darker yellow. And then you can see the dark orange D's and F's in red. Interestingly enough, the district sort of has a split personality when it comes to the performance level of charter schools, where many of them are achieving levels consistent with where we want to be in terms of our district managed programs as well, the goal being A's and B's for our schools, and then the others sort of somewhere in the middle or on the wrong side of that particular comparison. I will share with you that when we look at the percentage of students performing at 3 or above on the ELA portion of the FSA, charter schools, on average, this group of charter schools in 2019 performed at 57.9% of their students scoring at 3 or above. The district was at 52.3%. And that is something that Mr. Davis spoke to just briefly a moment ago in terms of improving our product so that we are a better option for families. One thing I did discover in sort of digging a little deeper into the statistics around charter schools versus district managed schools is that the average percentage of students who meet the free and reduced lunch category economically disadvantaged for charter schools was at 50.9% at this time in 2019. District managed schools were at 68.1%. So charter schools are not necessarily getting those from more depressed neighborhoods into their classrooms.
Thank you, Mr. McCauley and Superintendent Davis. Did you want to conclude, because we have
Yes, ma'am.
an infinite amount of questions from the board, probably?
Yes, ma'am. And I would say holistically, when we talked about being able to market for us to continue to focus on district managed schools, and these are just a number of items that we've done. We've created overall as we transition this school year, everything we've done is really focused on the balance of not only what we put in the classroom, what we put on the classroom, and what supports we wrap around our overall overall community related to a theory of action. We've initiated and launched a theory of action, which is about holding high expectations for every learner within every classroom, every minute, and every day. We provide strong instructional practices where kids can productively grapple every single day with high quality content. And then we've also asked our student, our teachers and our leaders to really start to begin to cultivate where we, in every one of our classrooms, we have deep, authentic engagement versus compliant engagement. And I think that allows our children to defend their claims, to be able to actively engage and have discourse. And then the final thing, to be able to provide consistent work where children are exposed and engaged in grade level equivalent experiences. And I think that's the top of the foundation of what we're trying to accomplish, to create a common focus, to create a common language within every one of our classrooms, from the district level all the way down to the classroom and permeating out to our community. And the areas of focus is our big buckets. But we have to continue to focus on literacy, the analytic that Mr. McCauley provided. There is some separation. They're also looking at closing our achievement gap to be able to reduce the number of underperforming, classroom students in schools, and to be able to make certain we continue to have that 20 by 90 was still a great initiative, and we're still on the way to get there. I think we will try to accomplish it by this year, and then establish new goals and be able to create a 21st century classroom where kids are actively engaged not only in STEAM activities but STEM activities as well. And then being able to make certain that we're operational. We have exciting, warm, and inviting structures for our children where kids can have inquiry-based learning activities that are sophisticated and actually aligned to the pathway they aspire to do it. But I think this is also about getting into, focusing on our frameworks. What does our instructional frameworks look like? How are we are conducting calibration walks to be able to build true PLCs, to be able to talk about best practices in order to improve our knowledge and have great takeaways from each of our leaders. Then at the same time, being able to redesign supports from our schools. And what does that look like from Mr. Connor's shop? What does that look like from Tracy Brown's shop from mental health? How are we providing ongoing work through Monica's Equity University shop? And what are we doing from mental health and transformation? And being able to have and hire highly qualified, skilled leaders who have proven organizational impact, not only in schools, in organizations, in departments, who are truly ready to roll up their sleeves and continue to grow. And then overall being able to hold accountability measures, not only for principals, but APs, but district staff, myself, through the board, and to the community, and then reimagining, what our redesigns may be, looking at programs, initiatives to make certain they're aligned with the community's needs and wants and desires, and then having the best marketing plan that we can do it. We're working on a marketing plan. We know we have ways to go, but we've got to start telling our story and leveraging social media, and at the same time being informational about what we offer, when we offer, how we offer it, and how it is a separator in Hillsborough County. Thank you, and thank each of you as well.
Thank you. Wonderful panel. Thank you so much, Dr. Chintzia DeLange, and thank you for the informative amount of information, and thank you, Van Ayers and Mr. McCauley. At this time, we're going to hear from Mr. Ralph Arza, and Ralph, just so you know, I'm trying to keep things time certain, so 15 minutes. Because the board has questions, and I appreciate you coming, by the way. That's a great, I don't know, it's just a great give that you came up here to share. So thank you, and hopefully you'll be part of the solution, because we're all itching to find a better situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is this on? Hello?
Pablo?
Now? Okay. So the clock starts now. And you're a runner, and I'm a former football coach. So 2-minute warning. I want to keep it right to the point, okay? Look, there are 32,000 students, and parents, about 50,000 of them, who send their kids every day to a charter school. And because of this board, the majority of members of this board, they're allowed to do that. So what would have happened in Hillsborough County if you would not have approved those 32,000 student stations? Because when you see that jump that you talked about, Ms. Snively, you mentioned there's been incredible growth in South County. What would it cost this district to build 32,000 student stations? If you ask Mr. Farkas, somewhere around $22,000 per student station. You know, do the math. That's about over $700 million that did not cost the school district anything. That the private sector went out, built these schools, they leased these buildings back to charter schools, and the students in your community get a chance to send their kids to a school in their community. If that was not the case, and we take out those charter schools, where would those kids be going today? What kind of attendance boundaries would you be forced to try to make? So in the charter school movement, we do not, we run a tight ship, you know, and the reason we do is the FTE guides everything. If we do not have enough FTE, you know, teachers are eliminated, staff is eliminated. So we do not have a surplus of folks in our buildings. We do not have many schools in your community with financial deteriorating conditions. We do not. Hillsborough County has been an incredible authorizer and a tough authorizer. Listen, we have had, and I've had, you know, pretty intense conversations with former Jenna Hodgins. Jenna would call board members and begin to like question them, and it was tough even getting through an application process. How do I know that Hillsborough did a great job in authorizing? How many scandals have you read in the paper about charter schools? Not that many, thank God, up to now. If you go other counties, you've had major scandals of money being stolen, just really bad things that we as a charter movement feel embarrassed by. So that's how I know you guys have done a great job. Now, there is a county in the state of Florida, Palm Beach County, that we now have a great relationship. We went through a tough time, and their board decided we're not going to approve charter schools unless they're innovative. We're not going to approve charter schools in certain neighborhoods. We're not going to approve charter schools if we do not think that their plan is good for our community. So what happened? They denied it. It went to the state Charter School Appeals Board. That Charter School Appeal Board unanimously, and I want you to know who's on the Charter School Appeals Board because I passed that law. 3 members of public schools, 3 members of charter schools, and the Commissioner of Education has a deciding vote. Unanimously ruled that Palm Beach did not provide grounds to deny a charter. What did Palm Beach do? They said, no, we're still not going to deny it. It went to an administrative court judge. What did that judge rule? There were no grounds to deny it. Okay, so what happened? 2 years, over $1 million in legal fees that the Palm Beach School District had to pay for trying to deny something that they had no right to deny. It's in state statute. You saw the state statutes. Like the contract. The other day, 2 board members voted against the contract. You know what would have happened? We go to the state, we mediate, we get a standard contract. Anything you negotiated that we gave in to the district would have been taken out, and you would have been stuck with the standard contract. So I would say to you, it is completely unfair to me when I read the narrative that charter schools have caused the problem financially. Listen, I was here with Mary Ellen Elia. I was in the legislature when she was a superintendent. Decisions were made, and those decisions were inherited by Jeff Akins, a good man, and you guys, you know, the majority of you, made him superintendent. He tried to work through this. You try to work through this. And then it was inherited by Mr. Davis, you know, of trying to make some tough decisions. To blame charter schools for that, you know what? I mean, I have to say to you, and I say respectfully, it's not fair. We are providing a service to this county. 32,000 kids, 50,000 parents send their kids to us. Why? Because we provide something different. Who built the schools? Who built those 32,000 student stations? We did. And those 32,000 student stations cost $700 million. Could you have done that? You were still trying to dig yourself out of the air conditioning stuff that took place in this district. That's why the community trusted you enough to give you that half-penny sales tax. They trust you to fix the schools. And that, I think, was a work of this board and also your former superintendent, Jeff Akins. So, look, and you know, disagreeing is good in life because I think it makes us all better. My wife tells me that every day, and I'm reminded of that by my 4 daughters who constantly point out things that I should be doing better. So I think it's healthy to do it. In Miami-Dade, Superintendent Carvalho competes with charter schools. Some charter schools are afraid to open up near his schools. You know what? That's the testament to the competition. Who wins? one of the best districts in the country, Miami-Dade schools. You have the most number of charter school students in the state, in Miami-Dade. It can work together. It does not have to be this adversarial thing or pointing. You know what? One of the things that I did as a football coach when I took over, I told my players, we will never blame someone else for our mistakes. It was the biggest lesson I tried to teach my kids, because there was a tendency when something went wrong to blame somebody else. You know what? Take responsibility for my end of it. What am I responsible for? What can I do better? So I think that's basically it. But thank you for indulging me. And I want to thank Dr. Graham for being here this morning. He's over all school choice in the state of Florida. Commissioner Corcoran recruited him from Hillsborough County Schools. Superintendent Davis is trying to recruit him back. We're trying to prevent that from happening.
Thank you, Mr. Arza. And yeah, Dr. Graham, did you want to say anything? Because yeah, well, you came all the way from Tallahassee, and Mr. Arza didn't use his whole 15 minutes. So I am counting those seconds and minutes. Thanks, coming from. And by the way, I do believe you were former Teacher of the Year for the state of Florida. That is incredible. Well, we thank you. Your time is very valuable, but you only have a little bit of time. So thank you.
Yeah, jobs offer still stands.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I did not plan on speaking unless the question was asked, but I never miss an opportunity to first just say thank you, and it feels good to be home. And when I was a product, I'm sorry. I'm a product of Hillsborough County. Went to King High School, graduated there from the IB program. It means something to have an investment in this community. So just being here, being able to offer some perspective is really great. And so I think this is what we've been discussing today, is maintaining the North Star. And at the end of the day, what matters most is that our students receive an opportunity for an equitable educational experience. And how do we as a community come together to provide those choices and those opportunities for each student? Competition is great. Collaboration is better. And so we need to focus on the solution and how we can work together to bring about these things for the students. You all have an incredible opportunity. A lot of people look at obstacles and they see challenges. I see opportunity. You have an opportunity to create a future for our students that will allow them to flourish in so many different ways. And I look at my role now, as I've transitioned to the department, as a tool for that assistance. So however we can be of assistance to help you through this and get those opportunities for those students, I'm here for that. So once again, thank you for allowing me here. Thank you for the opportunity to speak for a moment. I miss you all. I miss this place. But we're all doing some really great things. So I look forward to what we do in the future.
Thank you.
Well, we miss you too, as I hear different board members just applaud that you're being here. Thank you so much. We're going to go ahead into board comments and concerns. Probably three types of concerns: the process of reviewing applications, funding equity, and by Florida statute, are these charter schools exemplary and innovative? I believe 17 out of 52 are C or below, so we have to be mindful of that particular statistic. First on, 3 minutes each, and then get back in the queue. Member Perez, sorry. Good morning.
A, B, or C.
Morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. Am I on?
90.
Yeah, it's on. I broke it. Oh, is it on? Can you hear now? Okay. All right. Good morning, and thank you so much for your presentation. I have a few questions for you, okay? So we'll just answer and go. All right. How many, on page 20, how many of the ESE, ELL, how many are ELL and how many are ESE in that column? 20.
Mm-hmm. Sure, we're talking about the review, the review team.
Mm-hmm.
So Ken Colin, Kelly Odom, Tracy Aguilar, and Tamara Stevens are all ESE, and Veronica Botts and Yuli Jastemski are ELL.
Okay. Superintendent, I totally agree with you that we have to do a better job in serving our students, not just in marketing, but we must look to meet the needs of our students. We have to in this district. So we're truly failing our ELL students. We are. Many of our ELL students are only receiving a certificate of completion here in Hillsborough County. So how many ELL students have successfully completed in charter schools with a diploma? Can you tell me that?
You mean graduated?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I do not have that graduation data right now, but I can certainly look into it and provide it to you.
Fabulous. Okay. And I understand that this is parent choice, but how many students transfer to charter schools that have an A average?
So you're requesting students transferred from a traditional school
Ooh, yes.
to a charter school
Yes.
that is an A?
No,
No.
that the students already have an A average.
Oh, so you're looking at how many students with an A average that are transferring from a traditional school to a charter school?
Yes.
I do not have that information. I will look into it.
Okay. And with some of the accountability trends, some charter schools seem like they get comfortable after a couple of years and they go into D and F. How do you, make those schools accountable? What happens?
Sure. Right now, we have 3 schools in that category, and 2 of them were brand new schools and very small schools, so they didn't have enough cells in the assessment data. So that's why they ended up with an F. So we foresee when everything goes back to normal, and the students are tested normally, they will have more cells in the data and they will come out of it. There is one that kind of teeters from a D to an F to a C, sometimes to a B, and that is Village of Excellence. But when that happens, we monitor. We have a procedure in place, actually a process in place, where we actually go to the school every quarter and sit down with the school leaders, and we talk about their school improvement. We look at data and we ask them, we talk about, discuss what they are doing to ensure academic success. So that is another form of the authorizing process. So we do have that in procedure.
Okay. Superintendent, we, since I've been on the board, we have never had an exit interview with the parents who choose to leave traditional school to go to charter schools. I've suggested it, but it's not been followed through with. But I believe if we have an exit interview for these students, we as, Hillsborough County could understand better what the needs of our students are, where we're lacking, and where we need to improve. And I'll get back in the queue.
Thank you, Member Perez, and that sounds like a call to action. And Superintendent Davis, I believe that exit interview is a very good idea. So we're going to go ahead now to Member Vaughn and then follow with Member Combs. Where did, excuse me, Dr. Hahn, you're next.
Did you erase me?
I did not. Go ahead, Dr. Hahn. Member Hahn.
I promise I'll stay within the 3 minutes.
I think I threatened her with 3 minutes. All right. Go ahead. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Thank you very much. Thank you to the staff for putting together this very comprehensive review. I think it's very beneficial to all board members as well as the community to have this opportunity to talk through the process. So when I look at page 30 with the enrollment trends, and we were talking about, we were questioning why we were seeing that sharp increase. And my guess is, if we looked back at the number of DNF schools, that they probably increased over that time period. So, of course, when we're not able to provide a high quality choice or options, that's when parents will seek out charters. And we have some of the highest numbers of DNF schools in the history of Hillsborough County right now. So you can market, of course, but if you're not going to market high quality options, it's not really going to provide us with, retaining any students in those particular areas. Also, we probably have had the most amount of growth over that period of time. I was in South County, and a lot of the charter schools are in District 2. They're in South County because of the population increase. And I was in District 2 last week in South County visiting 3 schools, talking with PTA and administrators and teachers. And many of those students who are leaving the elementary schools are choosing charters at the middle school because of the overcrowding. Not because they're not good quality options, because they are, but it's the overcrowding of those schools. And they're choosing it. For example, out of Apollo Beach Elementary, 50% of the students leaving 5th grade choose a charter school option because of the overcrowding at the middle schools that they would matriculate into. And once they leave at middle school, it's very difficult to capture them again in high school because, as you can imagine, those are difficult times to transition. You have friends and routines, and so I know that we are working on solutions to build more schools in South County. I know that we've had some challenges with the county commission, so we need to probably have a workshop around growth and management and that process. So I know I'm almost out of time, so I'll get back in the queue. But I do think that a lot of the growth that we saw over those years with our charters was due to the growth in South County as well as the increase in DNF schools. So thank you, and I'll get back in the queue.
Thank you, Member Hahn, and you've made very, very good points. As we know, Shields Middle School is super overflowing already. So, yeah, and that's in your district. Superintendent Davis, did you want to make a comment? I didn't know if you wanted to say anything with that in mind, but if...
No, ma'am, I think Dr. Hahn's spot on. We're going to run an analysis, the percentage of students that are leaving from brick and mortar traditional schools to charter schools by grade level. I do believe that middle school is the time that transitions, and as you spoke about Shields, it's got 1,700 plus students. It's a lot of students in the middle school.
Right, and we do have a BOCC meeting coming up with reference to what Member Hahn said, so we are planning that. Next is Member Vaughn.
Thank you. Is this microphone working? Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you to everyone who presented today. I do appreciate it, although I feel that the structure of this workshop is a challenge because it's almost like 2 parts. And so I want to address my question to the first part, and then I'll address it to the second part where we had our speakers. And Dr. Graham, I really appreciate you coming. I love that you spoke to unity and how we can work together. I see that's our role with the charter schools. But I am confused that he wasn't on the agenda and we allowed him to speak when last time I asked for the union to be able to speak and I yielded my time and they were told no. So I would really like to understand the procedure of our workshops more because I find that to be very unfair. But going forward, here are some of the questions that I have regarding the presentation. Number 1, what is our role as far as helping the charter schools with the application? Is there ever a time where we're allowed to actually help them with the application? And if we found that we did, would that be a problem?
So we only assist with technical issues. So if the application has technical errors, we give them 7 days to correct and resubmit. But other than that, we do not help in any way. We do have like potential applicant meeting, but we do not see that as helping. We simply set parameters that we require in Hillsborough County to apply. So the format is very straightforward. We tell them what our standards are and how to meet them. But other than that, if we get phone calls asking for substantial assistance in writing the application we let them know that there are agencies outside of the county that can assist with that.
Okay, thank you. And I feel like maybe I should just ask my questions so I don't eat up all my time with the answer. But we did point out the difference between independent managed schools and the for-profit managed schools. And I think that's important to have in the conversation here. Also, when I look at the percentage of charter schools that we're looking to approve upcoming or that have been approved, it looks like a third of them are independently managed and 2/3 of them are for-profit managed. What I want to know is how many, when I look at this list of our grades from A to B, which the charter schools are doing, what's the percentage of those that are independently managed compared to the ones that are for-profit managed charter schools? How are they rating in comparison? That's one of the questions that I have. And then another question is, we looked at how many we reject, and we had rejected one charter school. And I want to know what were the grounds of that rejection and what happened with it. And then when I get back in the queue, I have some percentage questions to ask. So thank you so much for answering all those questions.
Sure. In regards to the percentage, we know that we've got 26 out of 52 right that are managed. I do not have right now the percentage of the A's and B's of that, so I will get to you. I will get you that information at a later date. In reference to that one application that was denied in 2013, that was Charter School USA, so a managed an application with an ESP in it, and we denied it. We told them that we were going to deny it, but they chose to move forward anyway, and it did go to the DOE, and the DOE fell in our favor because we had enough supporting documentation and justification to deny that application.
Excuse me. Thank you. And thank you, Member Vaughn. And now we're going to move to, and thank you, Cinzia. Member Combs?
Thank you all for all your time that you put forth to put together this PowerPoint, and thank you for always being so open when I come into the office. So a couple comments. When I look historically at the growth of charter schools, there have been charter schools that have opened in South County, but I disagree with Dr. Hahn. Throughout the county, we have had areas where we are low capacity in schools, where we are not fully capacity, and charter schools have been built in those areas. Is that correct or incorrect?
The process for a charter school to find a location is not completely. I don't have complete access to how they do that, but they do go. They do ask us. Well, not us, but our Office of Development, where our areas of need are. So they some of them concentrate in that area, and right now I believe it's South County. And then they have to work with the county to determine where they can build. So the process is completely separate from the application process.
Because I'm looking at myself in District 1, where historically several of my charter schools have been built into strip malls or different areas like that. And in District 1, there was one charter school that closed at the end of the third year when they were supposed to give their scoring, and then another charter school took over them. Over in right there in Citrus Park area, where you have 2 or 3 charter schools. You have schools that are under capacity there that are not full capacity, and then there's charter schools all around those schools, and those schools are C and above. All those schools in that area are B and A schools. As a matter of fact, the high school right across from them is an A school and has always been an A school. So I want to make sure that that type of information is not misleading to people to think that that is why we are building charter schools, because a lot of that is actually for profit, and so I think that we have to consider that. So I have a few questions. What percentage of charter schools provide transportation to our students?
So I don't have numbers,
Right.
but most of them follow state statute, and that is they can contract with the district, which they do not in Hillsborough County. They can contract with a private company, so some of them do, or they can agree with the parents, and that's what many of them do, is that they agree with the parents to carpool or to create a system where everybody has access to transportation.
I mean, I think that's very important to realize that many of the students who really need it the most, first of all, we have a higher percentage of students on free and reduced lunch that attend our public schools. Then we have students who can't have transportation. I'll get back in the queue as well. Thank you.
And thank you, Member Combs. So I had just a few broad statements to make. I think we are very appreciative of the charter schools, to the point, Mr. Arza, to fulfill the needs of our students, because we're here for the welfare of our children. Every board member is here for that, and we want the quality education. However, there is disputing continually how, by Florida statute, how innovative, how exemplary are these charter schools. Well, if we go into what Member Perez had mentioned, the funding equity, how well are they representing the ELL, the ESE, the marginalized communities? I have those doubts, and of course there's statistics, but that's really the heart and soul. That's when you get into why are we here on this board? Why is our superintendent having this position? It's because we have to pay attention to the welfare of our children, all children. And a charter school decision is a very expensive decision, such that I think another part of this workshop should dwell on the absolute quality of the application. Why are we not having cabinet members, the academia, if you will, the one that's in charge of ESE, the one that's in charge of math and science, the one that's in charge, in other words, Superintendent Davis has an excellent regime of academia. Why are they not involved? I understand you have teachers on there, and I thank you for that. And Larry Plank, of course, is an excellent science STEM. But I definitely think board members need to hear from our cabinet, our superintendent, and we need to be involved, because it's an expensive equation to buy and to have a school. Not only financially, it's the children who may succeed at a charter, or maybe that charter won't succeed. They come back to us. What does that do to a child? So we as a board, I think, need to be very strong, and Superintendent Davis, as to the quality of that charter school, because then we're committing parents and our children to that school. And every 5 minutes of a child's life, and many of you educators know only too well, affects the trajectory of their life. Every one of us, just about, and I always say Member Snively is a school teacher because she has 4 kids, and that's a mini classroom. And in the basketball team, but truly, we have to remember a charter school application. And Chinzi, you're doing an excellent job, and your staff. I'm not speaking to you other than evenly. We have to make sure it's the right decision to put into our public school realm. Financially, it's costing us, no matter how thin you slice it, it's costing us. Applications alone, $3 to $4 million per year. That's just applications. So I just think, and I'm going to shut my mouth right now because my time is up, I would like to see a better application process, and I'd like to see more funding equity for the sake of our children, if nothing else. Thank you. And now we're going to go to Member Perez. But Member Snively, did you want to speak? Because no, she's going to wait. Okay, Member Perez, thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have students, ACE students, that move to the charter schools. So, Superintendent, we have to understand how that affects the grades of our schools. When we're looking at the D schools and the F schools, even the C schools, how many students have moved that are A students out of those schools into charter schools, affecting the grade of that school. And with regard to the failing schools, we need to look at how our students leaving affect those schools. But also, Hillsborough County provided lunches for our students last summer and during the winter break. How did the charter schools also assist the students during this time, especially a time of pandemic?
And Mr. Davis was very gracious and opened all those programs to charter students as well. And so our office informed them all, and they did take advantage of that.
Okay, so we provided lunch for every student across Hillsborough County, whether they were in charter or in traditional school.
During the pandemic?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so that's fabulous for us, but how does, on the bottom line, how did that affect us? You know, when the charter schools didn't participate, or even half reimbursed or anything like that. How bottom line did that affect us?
Yes, ma'am, to the chair. So we get funding from the department, the federal government, to be able to help in our community during the pandemic. So that money was used to be able to provide ongoing nutrition, both for breakfast and lunch. So all the dollars, we use every one of those dollars until they were exhausted, not only within for our brick and mortar district managed students, but also for charter students as well. So, as you know, they get access to any federal assistance that is provided to us, whether it's that's identified within language. So our role and responsibility is to make certain that we provide and extend and help if they are willing to take a part of this initiative, and they did.
Thank you, Member Perez. We're going to go to Member Snively.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for your presentation today. This is great information for everyone. And so I think that first I'll say Member Perez kind of hit the nail on the head when we talk about finding out why our customers are leaving our school district, right? So I think, we can sit and we can fight back and forth about charter schools and traditional public schools, but at the end of the day, it's really what's the best product for our student and what's going to meet the needs of our student. And you can talk about a marketing plan and communication and everything, Mr. Superintendent, which is great, but you've got to have a quality product to market before you can have a marketing plan in place, before you can implement a marketing plan. So what is our value proposition? What is our product? And how can we position ourselves with that value proposition to be the best choice for our students? Charter schools serve a great purpose. I know we talked about capacity, and I know, Dr. Hahn, you made the point about capacity, but I also know that that's not you weren't intending to say that's the only reason that those charter schools were in that particular area. That just helps with capacity. But charter schools get put in certain areas or request to be placed in certain areas that meet the needs of students in those areas. And sometimes it is maybe capacity because parents are not happy sending their child to a school that's overcrowded, or maybe it's because their local school that they're zoned for is an F school and has been an F school for several years. And so they're looking for other options for their students. I loved what Dr. Graham said about collaboration versus competition. We have to change our mindset, shift our mindset about how we work with our charter schools. They are not going away, period. So we have to learn how to live within the same space and learn from each other. We shouldn't be fighting each other. We should be learning from each other. There is no such thing as a for-profit charter school. They're all managed by non-for-profits. Some of them have a vendor that assists them with operational services that charge a fee for those services, just like we do. We do not work independently. How many vendors do we have in our school district that help us with operational services? Hundreds, thousands probably. But we're not a for-profit public school system. But we have vendors that we work with that do make a profit from us. And that is exactly the same thing that some of those charter schools have chosen to do, is to hire someone from outside of their school to handle some of those administrative services. Right? So I also think that when students are leaving, and I've said this so many times at so many board meetings that I just want to bang my head against the wall. We have got to do a better job at finding out why people are leaving our schools. Whether it's an exit interview or just a survey. Why are parents choosing to leave our school district for something else? I'll get back in the queue. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Snively. And those are very important questions that you have posed. Member Washington?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I want to thank Dr. Graham. You did a great job, son. I called him my son because he's young, but he's a great guy. You know, as I said here and listening, I can see in District 5, I have the most transformational schools. And as I look down, I see we have 16 charter schools. You know why? Because we're not selling a good product. We got to sell a better product in order for our schools to not have that many charter schools in that particular area. Another point, when charter schools are not doing well, so how are we monitoring the charter schools?
Yes, I think as I said before, we actually have a process in place that is part of the authorizing process in general, and that is that we go in, we have them do a school improvement plan, and they actually present to the board their school improvement plan around about September for the DNF schools. And then our office monitors on a quarterly basis, and they sit down with the school leader to determine whether the strategies implemented and the interventions implemented are working or not, what to change or what to shift. And usually this process does work. If anything, it allows the school leader to verbalize and digest their school improvement in order to shift and accommodate for the data that the school has moving forward. So we do have lots of dialogue about their school improvement.
So do we go out once or twice a year? How many times do we?
Every quarter.
Every quarter we go to.
Every quarter.
Okay, good. But again, I can see where we have 16, we have the most because we are in District 5, we have those transformational schools. But anyway, thank you. You guys done a great job.
Thank you, Mr. Washington.
Thank you, Member Washington. Member Hahn?
Thank you, Member Gray. I just wanted to make some comments on the application review process and point out, because I know some comments were made about the process, that in this district, it is more robust than probably most districts because they are doing things that are not required by state statute. They're going above and beyond and implementing best practices. And I think that the results of that, and I appreciate that, can be seen on page 23 when you look at the number during the application process, the number of applications received and the number that are withdrawn. Because I think it is a robust process and I think the data supports that. So thank you for that. Let me ask, how much annually do we receive from the charters for the administration fees? Do we know? Do you have that number?
You mean the total amount?
Yes.
It's typically around $3 million.
$3 million.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, annually that we receive. And has this district, I know we have, but I don't know the number. How many charter schools have we closed over the years for various reasons?
So I have data for the past 5 years, and we've closed 6 schools. Well, 5.5. I say 6 because one never managed to open, so they kept deferring, but they had location problems and they were about to open, but we said they did not meet the requirements to open. So in all 6,
Okay. Yeah, I think I remember that. I think that was in the last 2 years. And then another one was closed. We closed in the last 2 years for financial
Yes, ma'am.
reasons.
We closed in the last 11 months since I've
Right.
been here.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I'll get back in the queue.
Thank you, Member Hahn. Member Vaughn?
Thank you. I would just like to point out that, one, we're having a conversation about what's best for students, and I appreciate that being at the forefront. But I think we have to be clear that we're talking about what's best for all students. And when we have charter schools that might offer a better product, then we have to talk about the students who aren't able to navigate the charter school process and what kind of public school we're leaving for those students. So we want to be talking about a holistic conversation of what's best for all of our students. And I find it unfortunate that we have to have competition introduced into our public school system in order to make sure that we have the best available curriculum and the best available public school education. Public school shouldn't be about competition, because when you have competition, somebody always loses. And that's going to be a subset of our children. And the honest truth is, if we had completely invested in our public schools, we wouldn't need charter schools. If we weren't underfunding and under-prioritizing them, parents wouldn't have to choose. All parents should have an equal access to go to their local public school where their students feel equally nurtured and supported and have access to public education. So I just want to be clear with that. And when we're talking about how we had to mitigate development in counties where we didn't have enough funding to support that development, that goes back to impact fees and demanding that developers pay for their share of development. And that's a whole other conversation that we're going to have when we talk about county and the county development. But saying that because we haven't asked for development to be done responsibly and developers to pay their fair share of impact fees to build the schools that they need to, that charter schools are the only solution, does a disservice to this conversation. And I also don't see us as fighting about this, going back and forth. I see us as having a really important conversation for the best of our students. And also, to Mr. Orza's point, and I appreciate his passion, when he says that we need to not point fingers and we need to take responsibility, when we honestly look at our budget, talking about charter schools is taking responsibility, and it's being transparent. Our budget is what it is. And even Mr. Davis and everyone, when we talk about whether it's overstaffing or underfunding, it comes back to the point that we haven't downsized due to the demand of charter schools that have opened up and taken our students. So we have to be realistic about the conversation. The questions that I have, number one, is when I look at the numbers on page 28, and I do the percentage based on schools and different districts that I have here. When we look at Miami-Dade, when I look at the number, they have 28% of their schools are charter schools compared to how many schools they have. Broward is 27. Hillsborough, 34% is the numbers that I get. So you can tell me if I'm wrong on that. And then finally, my last question is when we talk about the $3 million that we raised from the 2 to 5% of operation fee or the administrative fees, where does that compare to the amount of money that we spend when you listed of all the services that we provide, the ESE, some of the operational service, the testing for teachings and certifications? Is that a self-funded amount of money that we make?
Yes, ma'am. That is what we call an unfunded mandate.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Vaughn. Excellent questions to be hopefully answered. And next we have Member Combs.
I agree. I think this is an honest conversation and that really we need to discuss this. When we talked about the administrative fee, is that true that the IDEA public schools are now looking at passing a policy so we won't even get 3 or 5% or we won't get any percentage of that administrative fee?
Well, they don't have to pass a policy because the law does not require them to pay any kind of administrative fee. So yes, they will not provide us with an administrative fee.
Okay. And also, I see that some of the schools do not have resource officers. Is that correct? What percentage of school, or does every charter school have a resource officer?
Yes, every charter school
does have a resource officer. Okay, and then the total, I mean, I guess one of the things that I want to make sure, and I feel like as I'm listening, I've been out to 27 schools. I feel we have the best product available. I do feel like our schools are amazing. I think our teachers are amazing, our custodians, our staff. I think that, we're kind of moving away from what we're here about is really talking about making sure that every child has access to a great education, regardless if it's public or charter school. So some of the conversations that I'm hearing here. I mean, I know for me personally, going out to the schools, I'm amazed by what our teachers, our administrative staff, our lunchroom staff, everybody, our paraprofessionals are doing every day. I think that's really important. So my biggest concerns are really making sure that the charter schools are not taking the best of the best students, meaning we want to make sure there's access to transportation for all the charter schools. We want to make sure that the ESE population and the ESOL population are served. We just approved a charter school not recently when they only had a 0.5 mental health / counselor, where you don't even have a full counselor at the school. I think it's really important for parents to know that grades are very subjective, meaning you can get straight A's at any school, but really looking at what those students are doing afterwards, really tracking students. Because what I'm hearing from schools over and over when I go is that students will go to charter schools and then when they return, they are behind. Let's really track those students and see how they're doing when they return, where they left us off and where they come back and where they stand. I think that's really important that we start tracking students when they enter charter schools, if they return, and what happens. I think that's a very important part of seeing that. Also, just making sure that we are really transparent with the charters that are where they're being placed, what access children have and don't have, and also when we're talking about charter schools and when they end up enrolling students for high school or whatever, and it's supposed to be a random. Is that really random? How does that happen? Those students being placed in different high schools, because I question sometimes seeing who gets into those schools and who doesn't.
Thank you, Member Combs. And I think we're getting into the generalities and expectations. So we'll go ahead with another round that's in the queue. I have, and then we'll get into the final thoughts, which will happen soon. One of the things, and Mr. Azza, what's happened is we all need to work together, and Dr. Graham, of course we do. I mean, that's, again, working collaboratively is the way of the world. It always brings the best results. The dissonance is that there's not equal accountability and oversight of public schools, of charter schools as there is of public schools. Now, if that's more work that we need to do, Superintendent Davis, to equalize it, or if it's a Tallahassee situation, but that's really what we're looking at an even playing field. If we have that, we're good to go. But when it's not, you're going to have these comments coming from board members, not only in this district, but other districts. When we have increased accountability and oversight with our own public schools, it only reveals the ideas, or let's just say the actual situations that we are not fulfilling. In other words, our public schools have room for improvement, and we have so many systems in place. The bureaucracy is endless, but we do check on everything from the teacher evaluations to the resource officers to the how clean the rooms are. I mean, the accountability systems are huge, and the oversight it's just continual. That is not happening necessarily. Now, this is what I wanted to say too. Cinzia is as well informed, and you are, which we know, and your staff. What happens is, if you're in charge of 52 charter schools, and let's just compare it to Kurt Browning, Superintendent Browning, he has a charter school officer charge of 10. How much oversight and accountability can you do compared to that? It's just, it's a operational nightmare, and it's hard for you. I mean, we're not saying you're doing a lesser job, but it's fundamentally almost impossible. It would be nice if we had 5 of you. So we have 52 schools. We can really look at them laser focused and get a more analytical viewpoint, and data can be had to board members. Also, I don't argue about the application process. I think we're doing an excellent job. I only say we can do better. We can do better when the cabinet members are involved, and we can do better when us board members are involved. So I don't want to take away from what we have. I want to build on it. Always remember, best practices are only best when they are improved and reevaluated over and over. We can do better, and that's what I would like to get to, a point of improving the application process. So with that, time's up, and Member Porter, Attorney Porter.
Just a quick clarification about the application process. So, charters are a feature of the Florida legislature, and they're very firm guidelines.
Your speaker.
I would advise against the board becoming involved in the application process, because you ultimately vote on both the application and the charter, and it would not be appropriate to have board members involved actively in the application process. You're the ones voting on it, so we just have to be cautious about that. Just as a clarification, I'm not sure if that's where you were going.
No, I'm not going there. I'm suggesting that there are other districts that are doing exactly what I shared, and I'm not going to say anything more because I appreciate what you're saying. I will not yield to that discussion. I'm just saying we can do better. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and close up here with Member Snively, Member Hahn, Member Vaughn, and we are looking forward to Member Snively.
Thank you. And Madam Chair, yes, there's always room for improvement in anything that we do. I do believe that our application process is robust as well, and over the last several years, I've watched it evolve and get better and better every year, and I am satisfied with the way that we are doing things right now. So I say keep up the good work, and if you find areas of improvement or better communication or whatever the consensus of this board is, then so be it. But I do think we have one of the best application processes in the state and country, as far as I'm concerned. So I do want to also say that probably one of the things that maybe we could advocate for with regard to legislation, because we talk about what we have, what we can control and what we can't control. And there's some things that we can certainly advocate for, and I think it was mentioned maybe by Member Combs or Member Perez, but the location is critical, and right now the location is not required for the application, only a vicinity or an area. And I have seen some situations where we think a charter school is going to meet the needs in a certain location, and that's what they put on the application, and then they turn around and because of whatever, it could be location availability, could be pricing of a leasing space, but they go to a completely different location than was intended, and now they're marketing, maybe their marketing are attractive, I should say, because I don't believe that they're taking students as much as we're losing students, right? So I see them, I see us losing students that are A students, or the schools that are around that particular charter school are A and B schools, and we're losing A and B students from our schools into a specific charter school that probably should have gone somewhere else. So at the end of the day, we could probably legislate, or we should advocate for legislation that maybe puts a little bit heftier requirement on choosing a location and sticking to that location based on the need of the students in that location. And I do appreciate, Member Vaughn, you're right. We do have to always consider what's best for all students, right? At the end of the day, it's really about what a parent chooses for their student, because it's what meets that student's needs. And we have to always keep in mind that it's the parents that are making these choices, right, for their students. It's not necessarily students making these choices. And so when it comes to the product, to Member Combs' point, yes, we have a very high quality product that we offer in our public school system. So I did not mean to insinuate that we don't have a quality product already. We do in most schools. We do have some schools that we need to work on, but for the most part, we do have the best product that's available in the marketplace. But it's communicating that and informing parents about that. When a parent leaves our traditional public school system, it's usually because they had a bad experience or they're misinformed about something and they don't have the information. And it's our job to make sure that we're doing whatever we can do to retain that student or those students in our schools. And so I'd like to see us get better at doing that. And I'll end it there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Member Snively. Member Hahn?
Thank you, Member Gray. I know we get a charter school annual report, which is great and it's very comprehensive. Is there a way, instead of waiting once a year to get that report, maybe we could have some type of semi-annual or quarterly update brought to the board on, number of applications, or, it doesn't have to be exactly like the annual report. And, respectfully, I understand you as Ms. Gray, highlighted, you do have a lot on your plate. Don't want to necessarily add to that, but I do think it would maybe help if the board could be informed beyond once a year as to the charter activity. I don't know how my colleagues feel about that, but maybe more than just annually, we could get an update. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Hahn. Member Vaughn?
Thank you very much, and thank you everyone who participated in this conversation today. Thank you, Chair Gray, for putting this together. I would like to close by saying I am not anti-charter school. That when I was in college, I learned that charter schools were created to give us a think tank of places where we can try out alternative education. But then the crucial piece of that was to bring it back to our public schools and for us to be collaborative so that our public schools could reflect the things that charter schools are doing successfully. We have several independent schools, independently managed charter schools in our county, which are amazing, and I applaud them for the work that they do. However, we do have to have a realistic conversation, as Ms. Snively said, that if parents are making this choice, why? Why are they making this choice? What's happening in our public schools? Are we underfunded? What is the solution? And I think we've talked with Member Perez and heard many times that an exit interview and really surveying our parents is a solution to that. But I also want to talk about how we're having a conversation about charter schools, but we're not really talking about Schools of Hope, which is a whole different animal and has a whole different set of legislation, specifically House Bill 7069, which I urge everyone to look at and read, because our conversations about charter schools and Hope charter schools in general are very different animals. And I'd like to formally request a workshop on Hope charter schools in general, because I have a whole laundry list here of how they don't meet or go through the same criteria as our regular charter schools do. And we have a lot of those coming and slated to open in our area. They've chosen Hillsborough as the place to really open. And some of the things that I look at, and I know Mr. Orza had spoken about it before, of whether or not they actually have to hire certified teachers and administrators, whether that was built into the bill, whether or not they're allowed to bypass the land use zoning requirements, whether, I have a whole laundry list, and I could use my entire time talking about the differences in the Schools of Hope and their accountability measures compared to what we've talked to here in regards to charter schools. It's unbelievable. So I would like to have a conversation about that. Out of all the charter schools, those are the ones I'm most concerned of expanding in our county, and how that will affect our students, especially since they're targeting our most marginalized students. So, but thank you so much, everyone, for this conversation, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Member Vaughn, and I noted your request. Member Combs?
I think Member Vaughn and I were in the same wavelength. I also have concerns about the Schools of Hope that are coming in, not having the administrative fee, also some of the background. I also want to know, someone from a business background, when you say nonprofit, really, when you're looking at a board and how they take money out, really nonprofit, for profit, it really is very similar. So I don't want people to think that, when you say nonprofit charter schools, people are profiting from the charter schools. That's why there's such a demand, and that's why there's an increase of charter schools. I want also people to know I do believe in parent choice. I believe that every parent wants to choose the best for their child. Regardless where they come from, they want the best for their children. I just want to make sure that there's transparency, and that when a parent goes to a school that looks beautiful and shiny, that they know that maybe that's the fourth administrator of the year or the teacher turnover. I don't think our students know when they're entering certain schools what the background of that school is, but they know in public education, in public schools, what our background is, how many teachers are certified, our administrative turnover. I think in those charter schools, sometimes you don't know that, and I want to give that knowledge to parents. That is, if whatever parents choose, that is their choice, but we as a public education need to do a better job at informing the parents of what that school exactly means, what the turnover is, what the class size is, what type of resources, what type of electives, and what type of opportunities that school is going to provide a child. I think that's the very important thing, is making sure that parents have that knowledge so they can make the best choice for their children.
Thank you, Member Combs. Great final thoughts. And if I could, I'll just make a few final thoughts on my own. And Superintendent Davis, feel free to, when I finish, that you also. You know, it's very interesting when we listen to each other, which we have. You all took notes and made the remarks that were very, that constituted a lot of thought and care for the future of our public schools. And I think that's the big fear, is the continuation of public school education, and not that charter schools are bad guys, because we all know better. I mean, we have great charter schools. In fact, I think Member Vaughn, isn't this coming from DeBartolo, Brooks DeBartolo, which is DeBartolo. All right, I'll get it right eventually. So this was a Bracela Buccaneers, but I mean, that particular charter school is excellent and very giving. So thank you, Brooke DeBartolo, for that. But basically, individual board members, we're not in consensus here, are we? We had this meeting because there is, in fact, differing opinions. And where we're getting information is probably public records and all the other things that are equal. So equal access to information, but still the results are different takes on it. I think one of the takeaways too is that we're very concerned with the funding equitable, making sure that our ESE, ELL, the populations that are most likely to not be served equally, become equally served in charter schools. But the world is one of student choice and school choice. In fact, in Pasco County, they have signs everywhere. We are a county of school choice. So it's an accepted situation, or I shouldn't say that, but it's an accepted reality. And school choice should be one that is a complement to every parent, every child, because, look, I can go to STEM, I can go to College of Engineering, all of this. But again, we always come back to home base. Equal accountability and oversight is what we're after. And given there is a differing opinion of the application process, and I'm not allowed to get into it because it could be a board topic. So, but I think this board, I have to say, I think I'm very proud of them, because each of you had a lot to say and not always saying what we all agree with. In other words, we're all not going, hurrah, hurrah, thanks, I agree with you totally. So we'll investigate a little bit deeper into some of those subjects, and keep an open mind. And Superintendent Davis, I'm going to thank everybody, but before I do, would you like to make some final remarks?
Yes, Mr. the Chair. I appreciate the conversation. When we talk about, the biggest thing for me, takeaway for me today is all about reflection and being able to extend a survey to every one of our parents and caregivers who elect, whether we'll send it automatically, whether they moving out of the county, whether they're going to a different educational setting, just to find out the why, so that we can self-reflect and be able to address any potential experiences or educational outcomes that were not desirable. And we'll capture that data. We know that we may not get everyone to complete it, but with the sampling sizes that we get, we'll be able to refine and look at geographical particular areas. As relates to collaboration, we always do a really good job. That collaboration is statutorily required to do so, and we do that. But overall, we have to be able to market and refine our efforts every single day. We do have a number of great things that are going on in Hillsborough County. We also have areas of opportunity for that continuous improvement mindset, and we'll continue to do it along the way. So I appreciate the feedback. Got lots of homework, and you'll see a follow-up very soon.
Yes, and we want to thank also Dr. Chinsia DeLang. Oh, it's a beautiful name. Just have to practice it more. And your staff, Dr. Graham and Ralph Arza, from driving all the way from Tallahassee. Oh, I hope you had a non-foggy drive. I know it's gotten, there's dangerous conditions out there. We want to thank you, too, because, it is a good world when we can share beliefs, not always agreeing, but we can appreciate each other and where we're coming from. And I think as Superintendent Davis and our board get to work on some of the issues that were mentioned, I think we will have the next time we visit this topic, I think we'll have a more unified approach, and we'll work towards that. So, and I think that's all. And thank you, board members, for coming and sharing your thoughts. And with that, let me ask my co-chair. Member Hahn, is it okay if I close the meeting?
Yes, Member. Hold on.